a teacher tied to a wagon, a brand heating in the dark, and a drifter who chooses mercy over blood. Night sits over dry lantern like a lid on a pot. The street is narrow. A hard hush hangs in the air. On a wagon plank, a woman stands with her hands tied, so it curls from the iron in the brazier. Men who should know better look away. Clara Wynne keeps her chin up. Her eyes are steady. She is a teacher, a widow, and alone. Her husband has been in the ground. His brother and kin call this a morality correction. They preach while they reach for her land. A spring on her acres feeds a flat where a rail spur could run. A deputy leans on a post and taps his badge. His smile looks forced and cheap. Two men hold the hot iron with tongs. A third lifts a Bible and twists words to fit his pay. The bell is silent. The air tastes of ash and fear. Hoofbeats roll from the far end of the street. A rider comes out of the dark like a deeper shadow. Hat low, duster coat, plain belt. He stops with one boot in the stirrup. He does not shout. He looks at the iron. He looks at Clara. "Untie the lady," he says, calm as creek water over stone. The deputy laughs. "You from around here?" "No." "Then ride on." "Untie her," the rider says. The deputy nods at the men with the tongs. The iron tips toward Clara. The crowd leans forward, hungry and ashamed at once. The rider's hand blurs. A shot cracks. The iron leaps from the tongs and lands hissing in the dust. A second shot snaps the rope at Clara's wrists. People scream and scatter. The deputy grabs for his gun and finds a barrel already on him. "Don't," the rider says. Silence holds. The rider offers his hand, steady and empty. "Come with me." Clara does not know him. She knows the danger behind her. She takes his hand. He lifts her down and steps between her and the deputy. "Name." The deputy spits. "Jonah Reed." The rider says, "You broke the law." "I kept it." A shot barks from the crowd. Wood splinters by Clara's head. Jonah moves before the echo dies, pushing her behind the horse and firing twice. A man falls against the rail. Another trip on the iron burns his palm. "Mount," Jonah says. "I have no saddle." "Front." He swings up, pulls her ahead of him, and clicks to the horse. They streak down the street past dark windows and the shut hotel. Voices chase them, then hoofs. Someone yells for the deputy. Someone curses the name Reed. Town lights fall behind. Night opens. Sagebrush whips their legs. Jonah keeps the horse to hard ground, away from sand that tells tales. The moon is a thin bone. Clara grips the horn. The wind tears her breath. "Are you hurt?" Jonah asks. "No," she says, though her ribs ache and her wrists burn. "Hold on." They cut through a wash, climb a low rise, and drop into cottonwoods. Jonah slows, listens, then swings down. He helps Clara to the ground. Her legs shake. He leads the horse into the shadow of a chapel burned black. The roof is half gone. Inside, moonlight spills on the chair. Jonah ties the horse to a beam, checks the corners, and returns to Clara. He kneels to see her wrists. "May I?" She nods. He wraps the raw skin with a strip torn from his sleeve. His hands are careful. "Why did you help me?" she whispers. "Because men who hurt women shame the ground," he says, "and because that brand was a lie. They want my water." "I saw the deputy look at you and at that iron," he says. "Not law, business." Clara pulls a folded paper, then tucks it back. "I can prove it if I live long enough." "You will," he says. "At first light we talk terms." "Terms?" "I guard. You decide. Your road, your say." Wind slips through the broken rafters. Clara's shoulders sag. She sinks to a corner where ash is thin. Jonah settles near the door, back to the wall, gun across his knees. "You should sleep too," she says. "I will." "What if they come?" "I will hear." Outside, a coyote sends a thin cry. Inside, scorched walls keep what warmth they can. Clara closes her eyes. The iron is gone. The rope is gone. A stranger's promise holds the dark at the doorway like a barred plank. For the first time since the grave, her breath comes easy. She sleeps. Jonah listens to the night. He has been many things he will not name. Tonight he is a guard. He keeps his eyes on the door until light begins to thin the world. Dawn lifts over the burned chapel. Ash looks like frost. Clara wakes at the scratch of a match. Jonah crouches by the door with a tin cup and a small blue flame. He warms water and breaks a biscuit in half. He passes her the cup, then the biscuit. "Thank you," she says. "Drink. You will shake less." "You said we would talk at first light," Clara says. "We will. Tell me your full danger." "My husband Amos died 6 weeks after we married. The deputy wrote that his horse slipped. But Amos had no cuts. I washed him. There was a small wound behind his ear. The deputy hurried the burial." Jonah listens. "Go on." "After the funeral I found a deed and survey for the spring on my land. The writing is strange, like a verse cut wrong. I also found a stub from the railroad office. It shows small payments to the deputy and to the railroad agent. Same date as the day Amos fell. You carry them." She nods and takes a folded packet from inside her dress. "May I see?" "You will give them back." "I will." He studies the deed. "A cipher," he says. "Maybe a letter swap." He glances at the stub. "Small coins many times. Quiet money. Did you tell anyone?" "I told Mrs. Wilkins I had papers. Her cousin scrubs for the deputy. That was foolish." "You were grieving," Jonah says. "They will not forgive that I spoke in court when the Brannons tried to take my fence line. The deputy is in their pocket. The railroad agent eats at their table. The spring sits where a spur could stop and turn profit." Jonah folds the papers and gives them back. "Keep them close." "Never in a saddlebag. What now?" she asks. "I set terms. You accept or send me off," he says. "I guard. I do not order you. I will not leave you. We move before noon. We do not sleep on the same roof twice. I teach small tricks. You keep your say. When ready, we put these papers in the judge's hands in Mesa Court. Not the deputy. The judge rides the circuit train in 3 days. I accept. Your terms? I decide when we risk my life. You do not kill unless we must. Call me Clara. Tell me before you use me as bait." "I will not use you," he says. "I will use their greed." "Agreed." "Agreed." He checks the sky through the broken roof. "We need a plain wagon, 2 strong horses, flour, rope, and clothes no one knows." "Flour?" "Later," he says. "First you eat." They finish the biscuits and share the last water. Jonah scatters ash where they sat, rubs prints from the floor with burlap. "Why were you in Dry Lantern?" she asks, passing through. "Do you always step between strangers and irons?" "Not always." They leave the chapel on foot, leading the horse through cottonwoods. Sun lays a weak gold on trunks. Jonah shows her how to step in old tracks and set her boot on stone, not dust. "A hunter reads easy marks first," he says. "Do not give them your easy marks." They follow a wash to the yard behind the livery. Jonah ties the horse under a mesquite, then walks the fence. He studies gates and shade. "The liveryman rides at this hour," Clara says. He takes his wife coffee. "Good." He opens the corral, coaxes a gray mare and a dun gelding to the fence and rubs their noses. "We trade your gelding for these 2, he says. "Yours is known now." From the alley, a boy appears with a broom. He freezes. Jonah lifts a hand. "Morning." The boy looks at Clara, then at the raw bands on her wrists. "You need help?" "We need a wagon paid quiet," Jonah says. "And a secret kept." "My pa hates the Brannons," the boy says. "What is your name?" Clara asks. "Jeb." "Jeb, if we rent the widow Harris's wagon, will your pa look the other way?" "He will help hitch it," Jeb says. "Bring him to the back gate," Jonah says. "Tell him the deputy took money from the railroad and we have proof." "Say it softly." Jeb runs. Clara touches her pocket and feels the warm papers. She thinks of Amos, of one bell note that leads to a hymn. She thinks of a spring under a stone, waiting. She looks at Jonah. "I will not be easy cargo," she says. "Good," he says. "Easy cargo breaks. They wait in the shade." Clara breathes steadily. She nods once to Jonah. When Jeb returns with his paw and a short wagon, the morning has opened. Terms are set. The fight is chosen. They will move before noon. They get a wagon behind the livery. Jonah pays the rent, 2 sacks of flour, a coil of rope, and a small mirror. He ties the sacks under the seat, pockets the mirror, and fits bridles to the dun gelding and the gray mare. Clara thanks Jeb's pa and pulls a shawl tight. She keeps the packet under her bodice. We roll slow through town, Jonah says. No rush, no fear. We look like chores, not flight. They rattle onto the main street. No one stops them. Out of town, the land opens to brush and sky. Jonah keeps an easy pace that wastes nothing. He shows Clara how to hold the reins loose and feel the gray's mouth. He tucks the rope under the seat. Why the mirror? She asks. Signal, he says. I give our shadows to them, not us. By mid-morning, they reach a ridge above the river. The ford lies where stone makes a shallow path. Jonah studies tracks below. Hoof marks cross the sand and come back. A narrow boot heel prints deep. He points to a scrape. Scout, he says. They are waiting? They will. He gives Clara the reins. We must look easy. Sit tall, keep walking. Follow the rock line. Do not look back. What will you do? Give them a picture. He ties one end of the rope to a stake, then wades across to a willow root on the far side, rope over his shoulder. Water takes his coat to the waist. He ties the other end, pulls until the line hides just under the surface, and tests the span. Back in the sun, he tilts the mirror and throws a quick blade of light toward a sandstone shelf upriver, as if a scout had slipped and let his glass show. Then he tucks the mirror away. They will see that, Clara says. They will think you did not, he says. Drive, Clara clucks to the team. The wagon rolls down the slope. She sets the wheels on the rock line Jonah showed her. The water climbs to the hubs. She keeps her eyes on the far bank. A shout cracks from the shelf. 3 riders burst from behind the stone and drop to the sand, then into the river, pushing hard for the ford. The lead rider is broad in the shoulders and wears a red scarf. The 2 behind him follow in his wake. Clara does not look back. She hears a splash and grind. The team tosses their heads. Easy, she whispers. The lead rider hits the hidden rope. His horse's chest slams the line and folds. The animal flips forward and the man somersaults into the churn. The second rider plows into the tangle and tumbles. The third hauls his mount and skirts the edge, fighting for balance. Jonah rises from the cane on the near bank and fires once. The third rider's hat jumps and he drops low. Jonah fires again, high to scare the mount. The horse veers toward the deeper run and flounders. Clara holds the team true, but a horse screams. She looks despite her promise. The fallen horse is tangled in the line, rolling its eye. The man crawls to shore and reaches for a pistol. Clara throws the reins to one hand, shoves to her feet, and drops into the water. Cold bites her bones. She wades to the thrashing animal and feels for the rope with numb fingers. Hooves lash. Spray blinds her. She ducks, finds the line, and saws it across a sharp edge of rock. It frays, then parts. The horse surges up, trembling. Clara pushes at its shoulder to free it from the last loop. Back! Jonah shouts. The man on shore raises his gun toward Clara. Jonah's shot hits the sand an inch from the barrel and cuts a furrow to the man's wrist. The pistol jumps into the water. Clara stumbles to the wagon, soaked to the waist. She climbs, teeth chattering. Jonah helps her in. You did well, he says low. They reach the far bank and rattle into cottonwoods. Jonah swings down, lifts the mirror, and flashes at a bluff to the south where dust rises. Then he tucks the glass away and turns the team onto a rocky shelf that hides tracks. Clara coughs up river water and lets out a laugh. I cut the rope, she says. You freed a horse, Jonah says. The rope did its job. So did you. Will they follow? They will try. He looks at her wet dress and shaking hands. A way station sits 6 miles on. We'll swap clothes and let the sun do the rest. Can you hold the reins? Yes, then drive. And remember how you felt when the rope parted. That feeling will need you again. They reach the way station near noon, a low adobe house with a lean-to barn and a bell on a simple frame. Heat waves over the yard. A sign says water, feed, beds. The hostler watches from the shade. Ma'am, Jonah says. We need a room, a dry shirt, and 2 barrels of flour. Name's Marta, she says. Coin first, trouble second. Enough of both. He counts coins. May we borrow your bell rope? You planning a wedding? Just noise. Marta looks at Clara's soaked dress and raw wrists. Back room. I'll send my girl with clothes. Inside, a cot, a table, and one window to the barn. Jonah rolls the flour barrels in and tests the IDs. Clara changes behind a screen, then checks the packet. Safe. Jonah loops the bell rope over a rafter, pins it with a nail, and ties a burlap bag above the door inside. He pours flour into the bag and pricks tiny holes. He opens a second sack and leaves it on the table. Snow, he says. When they kick the door, pull the nail duck and count to 2. And then, throw the open sack at their knees. I'll light the pan. He dusts flour across a tin in the center. Flour blinds and chokes. A flash will scare them if we keep it low. They eat beans. While they wait, Clara spreads the deed and survey. The writing is neat and wrong. Show me where it limps, Jonah says. Here. She taps on the day. It repeats. Letters near it shift. What if that marks a key? Count 3 letters forward after each one. Clara tries with a pencil stub. A word rises. Bell. The next line gives tower. Bell. Tower, she says. But the school has a frame, not a tower. What about the frame? It's old. The blacksmith said the post came from the first church. The rope phrase. The post might be hollow. The station bell clangs twice. Writers, Jonah folds the papers and tucks them into Clara's pocket. We hold the door, he says. He nods at the nail above the lintel. Your pull, hooves pound. A voice calls, open up in the name of the law. The law can knock, Jonah says. He strikes a match and rests it by the pan. Flour dust hangs, a boot hits. The door leaps. Clara yanks the nail and drops. The burlap gives. A pale cloud spills as the door flies wide. Men rush in and vanish in white, coughing and swearing. Clara flings the open sack low. It bursts at their shins and turns the floor slick. Jonah kicks the door so it smacks a shoulder. The match catches dust and gives a bright whoosh. The men stumble. Down, Jonah says. Gunshots go wild into plaster. The bell rings again. Jonah crawls and hooks a boot behind an attacker's ankles. Down he goes. Jonah strips the revolver and flings it out the window. Out, he says, shoving the man toward the yard. Clara coughs and finds another sleeve. A chair crashes. She jams the chair under the latch when the outside push slams the door again. Window, Jonah says. He boosts Clara through. They drop to the yard and run along the barn wall. The writer's mill half blind. Marta swings a shovel at a man near her porch. They reach the bell frame. The rope is frayed and sticky with pitch. Clara sees a darker plug in the post at shoulder height. Bell tower, she breathes. Hollow post, Jonah wedges his knife. The plug gives. From inside, he slides out a dented metal tube capped with wax. A surveyor's stamp scars the side. Clara holds it like a relic. The original survey, she says. Hidden in plain sight. A bullet pings off the bell. They duck. Jonah tucks the tube under his coat. He flicks the mirror toward the ridge. A false signal so the riders think more men wait. Then he whistles for the team. The dun and the gray clatter to the wagon. Jonah hauls Clara up, slaps the lines, and the wagon leaps. A last cough of flour rolls from the door and swirls after them, a pale storm that hides their track. Thank you for the mess, Jonah calls. Mess is life. Marta shouts and yanks the bell rope so the note hammers the yard. Clara presses a hand to the tube under Jonah's coat. Proof. She sees the schoolyard and that old frame, a secret over their heads. Now Mesa Court, she says. First the rail yard, Jonah answers. We mail the copy and raise a flag the judge must see. She nods. The road shakes with heat out here. Behind them dust falls, but the bell's last note hangs like a path they can follow today. They roll toward Mesa Junction as evening cools the land. Wire hums. Clara keeps the packet close, deed survey tube, and the pay stub. Tonight we reach the yard, Jonah says. Small place. One clerk. A mail room. The judge's train left near midnight. And the deputy's men? Pinkerton lookalikes, he says. We will look like dust. At a freight stop, they pull in at a forge. The blacksmith is broad with ash on his sleeves. I'm Harlan, he says. Clara shows the survey tube. Did you stamp one like this for the first church? He studies it, nods. My mark. The deputy and the railroad agent have been taking money, Clara says. We aim to bring it to court. Harlan's mouth goes thin. He told me to stop asking about Amos. I did not. He fetches a thin file, a key blank, a small punch, and beeswax. Mailroom lock is common. If you get me the bite, you can shape a key. He adds, if the court calls, I'll speak. They leave the forge. Night gathers as they crest a ridge. Mesa Junction glows. Lanterns, a water tower, rails bright as thread. A semaphore arm sticks out. Red board against the sky. Jonah halts the wagon in cottonwood shade. We split, he says. I draw tails. You drive in slowly to the feed office. Buy a scoop of bran. Count left-hand doors. Third is the mail room. You want me alone? I am near, he says. He taps the mirror. If I flash twice, wait. 3, turn back. If none, move like chores. Do not stare at what you need. Clara eases the team onto the yard boards. Men stand near the coal bin and the telegraph. Clara keeps her eyes on the scales. Inside, a drowsy clerk measures bran. 2 cents, he says. She pays, steps out, and walks the boardwalk with steady feet. She counts doors without seeming to count. One with a bright lock, one with cracked paint, a third with a stubborn hasp, and a small wired window. From inside comes a soft snore. Clara drops her glove, kneels, and checks her fingernails loose. She stands, taps the hasp once, then presses beeswax to the keyway and the punch with slow force. The wax takes a clean bite. She tucks it into her cuff and moves on. By the water tower, Jonah lets his mirror catch a lantern for a blink. Far off, a rider turns his head and wanders that way. Clara circles to the cottonwoods. Jonah falls in step without looking at her. You have it? Yes. He kneels behind a stack of ties and works the key blank with Harlan's file, checking edges against the wax. The rasp is quick and neat. A whistle slides along the rails. The judge's train is on time. Copy ready? He asks. Clara opens the packet. She lays the stub in a careful copy made at the way station. Dates and sums line up. She adds a short note. To the circuit judge in Mesa. Evidence of payments from the railroad agent to the deputy, linked to the death of Amos Wynn. Please open the enclosed survey. She signs her name. You are brave, Jonah says. I am tired of being afraid. He tests the key. We go, straight walk. Quiet lungs. They cross the yard like they belong. At the third door, the key turns with a cricket-soft click. Inside, the mailroom smells of ink and sackcloth. The clerk snores. 2 canvas pouches hang with brass tags. Mesa and court pouch. Clara slides her packet deep into the art pouch. Jonah knots the tag string and sets the pouch on its hook. He peers at the semaphore. We need the whiteboard orders, so the engineer slows and reads. How do we raise it? Like we work here. They step into the night. The rail hums. Jonah throws the rope over the semaphore ladder and climbs. Clara stands at the base, a calm lookout with a scoop of bran. Yardmen glance and look away. Jonah pulls the lever. The pale square rises under the red. Orders at the station. The engineer must slow down. Clara feels the engine before she sees it. The headlamp blooms at the curve. She thinks of Amos's grave, of the school bell's hidden tube, of small hands that need water and a teacher who is not afraid. Hold steady, Jonah calls. I am steady, she says. The whistle cries once, long and sure. We'll sing. In the mailroom, the clerk snorts and sits up. He lifts the hook for the pouch and opens his door to the night. Now, Jonah says, sliding down to stand beside Clara. They step back into the shadow as the judge's train rolls in to read what cannot be ignored. The judge's train slows for the white square. Steam rolls across the boards. The clerk shuffles out with his hook. He glances at the semaphore, then at the mailroom door he left open. He does not see Clara and Jonah in the shadow of the water tower. The engine slides by. The mail clerk on the train leans far, snags the court pouch and tosses a fresh bag to the station hook. The wheels bite and the train gathers speed again, bound for Mesa before dawn. It's in his hands, Clara whispers. Jonah nods. We leave quietly. They walk like workers done with a shift. A man in a bowler steps from between boxcars and studies their faces. A badge with no county name winks on his vest. Evening, he says. His eyes flick to Clara's wrists, then to Jonah's coat. You two are out late. Feed, Jonah says, holding up the scoop. Names? The man asks. Jonah Reed. Jonah answers. The man's brows twitch. I have heard of that name. From honest mouths? Jonah asks. From paying ones. He tips his head toward the telegraph window. Our employer wants a word. Jonah angles his body so Clara's behind his shoulder. Another time, he says. He takes one step to the side. The men match him. Clara feels the mirror in her pocket. She remembers the rope parting. She also remembers Jonah's rule. Use their greed. She swallows. Sir, she says, soft as chalk on slate. If you're hunting for coin, you are looking the wrong way. The railroad agent keeps his ledger in a tin under the scale room floor. Loose board. Fourth from the wall. All three faces turn a hair to the right toward the scale room door. Jonah moves in the space that gives. He takes Clara's elbow and they step backward into deeper shadow. 2 more steps. 3. The men realize slowly and shift to follow. From the far side of the yard, a mule brays. Jonah flashes the mirror once toward the coal bin. A shape answers with a lantern sway. Harlan, the blacksmith. He swings the lantern low, then lets it fall. It breaks and flares bright. Shouts rise as men rush to stamp the flame. The Pinkerton lookalikes glance that way. It is all the time needed. Jonah lifts Clara onto the wagon seat, climbs after and cracks the lines. The team lunges. Wheels clatter across the boards. And stop them, the bowler yells. Riders pour from the dark, but the narrow lane between the freight loads slows them. Jonah aims for the gap by the cattle pen where the planks turn to dirt. He tosses a sack of flour over the tailgate. It bursts under a hoof and turns the ground slick. A horse slides and sits. Curses bloom. Clara looks back and sees Harlan shoulder a man off the platform. She makes a promise when this is over, she will thank him in daylight. They break from the yard into the cottonwoods. The river shines like a long knife. Jonah keeps to bare stones and kills the lantern. Are you hurt? He asks. No. You lied smoothly about the ledger. I told a truth that hasn't happened yet, she says. He will hide what he fears to lose. Jonah gives a short laugh. You will do in a courtroom. They put a mile between them and the yard before stopping in a dry wash. Jonah loops the reins and listens. Clara wrings her shawl. Her hands still shake, but now it is from the stillness after running. Tomorrow, Jonah says, we ride for Mesa. The judge will have the pouch by morning. We take seats where we can see the doors from. We keep friends near. Friends? She asks. Harlan will come, he says. Marta, if she can. The station master saw the pouch travel. The law shines best when many backs face it, not one. Clara thinks of her schoolroom of benches filled of brave faces. Many backs, she repeats. Jonah checks his revolver by touch and slides it back. He lays his coat over her shoulders. Sleep when you can, he says. I'll trade off after moonset. You always keep watch? She asks. When it matters, he says. It matters, she says. The wash holds their quiet. The stars feel close. Clara rests with her head against the wagon rail. She keeps one hand on the packet and another on the survey tube. Wood, paper, wax, 3 small anchors in a running night. Far off a coyote calls. Jonah tips his hat and listens for hoofbeats that do not come. The judge's train sings toward dawn. Somewhere on that train, a leather hand opens a pouch and sees a schoolmarm's name in careful ink. The law is waking. So is hope. Mesa wakes under a pale sky. The courthouse sits on a small hill with a cottonwood and a flag that barely moves. Jonah and Clara tie the wagon to the rail. She smooths her dress and checks the packet. Jonah scans doors and windows, counting paths in and out. Inside, the room smells of pine and paper. The sun makes shapes on the floor. A long table waits for the county attorney. The judge's chair looks heavy and honest. Folks file in. Harlan nods from the back. The station master stands by the wall. Marta squeezes down the row with a tin of lemon drops and sets it beside Clara like a blessing. Clara's heart thunders once, then steadies. She has taught louder rooms. She was not brave then. She is brave now. The deputy strides in with the railroad agent. Both wear new coats. The agent carries a folio. The deputy tips his hat to the clerk. His eyes slide past Clara, land on Jonah, and keep going. He sits near the front, fingers drumming to a tune only he hears. "Quiet," the bailiff calls. The judge enters with the court pouch under his arm. He sets it on the rail and looks at the room. "This session is open," he says. "We will hear a petition on water rights and alleged misconduct." His gaze meets Clara's. "You are Mrs. Clara Wynne?" "Yes, Your Honor. Did you send this pouch last night?" "I did," he nods. The seal is cut. The judge lifts the packet, reads a page, then Clara's note. He glances at the stub and the survey tube and leans forward. "Mrs. Wynne, you allege that monies passed from the railroad agent to the deputy, tied to your husband's death, and a move to seize your land. If this is false, the court can punish you. Do you understand?" "I do," she says. "It is true." The county attorney rises, neat and young. "Your Honor, the court has a pay stub and a copy of the ledger entries. We call the station master to confirm custody." The station master steps forward. "That pouch left Mesa Junction near midnight. I saw it taken. I also saw men without county badges eye the senders." "Thank you." The attorney calls Harlan. "State your name and line." "Harlan Pike, blacksmith." "I stamped the survey tube on your bench when the first church was raised. That mark is mine. Thank you." The attorney steadies. "Your Honor, let the ledger copy be read into the record and the original survey be opened and compared to later filings." The railroad agent stands. "Objection. The survey is a stolen church document." Marta coughs. "Found in the school bell post where your friend hid it." The judge lifts a hand. He studies the agent. "Name and station?" "Caleb Hart, agent for the Western Line." "And your relationship to the deputy?" "We are acquainted." "How acquainted?" "We attend the same lodge." The judge nods. "This court will open the survey." He breaks the wax, slides out the rolled paper, and snaps it flat with a paperweight. Under the lamps, the ink looks old. Measurements show the spring inside the wind boundary with a line of flow toward the planned spur. A small note in the margin marks public access right by school path. Clara's breath catches. She did not know that last line. The attorney reads the ledger copy. Dates, small sums, notation, services, information, assistance. He reads the names beside the marks. The agent's hand, the deputy's receipt. The judge sits back. "Deputy Brooks," he says. "Stand." The deputy rises slowly. "Yes, Your Honor. Did you receive these payments?" "A man is owed for his time." "Were these payments for public duty?" "They were for advice." "Did you move to take the Wynne land before this filing?" "The Brannons asked me to inspect a fence line." "Did you hurry Mr. Wynne's burial?" "I honored the widow's grief." Clara feels Marta's tin press against her ribs, solid as a hand. "Mr. Hart," the judge says, turning, "did you keep a ledger beneath the scale room floor?" Hart swallows. "I keep records secure." "Secure from whom?" "From thieves." "Open records are the spine of law," the judge says. "Counsel, we will take testimony on the death of Amos Wynne." He turns to Clara. "Mrs. Wynne, speak plain." Clara stands. "My husband was kind. He was careful with horses. The wound behind his ear was not from a fall." She lifts her chin. "I believe he was struck and staged. I believe the deputy knew. I believe the railroad agent paid to silence questions." Before the judge can reply, the deputy's mouth twists. He shoves his chair back. His hand drops toward his belt. Wood on wood cracks the breath of the room. Jonah is moving. Chairs scrape as the deputy lunges. His hand claws for his gun. Jonah clears the aisle like a shadow that chose to be fast. He does not shout. He does not aim to kill. He strikes the deputy's wrist with the side of his hand. The revolver jumps and skids under the bench. Hands where I can see them, the bailiff yells. The deputy swings with his left. Jonah steps inside the blow and hooks an arm, turning the man's weight back into the rail. Wood rattles. Jonah pins the elbow and folds the shoulder. The move is simple. It is firm. Stop, the judge says. Jonah eases the deputy to his knees and kicks the gun farther away. I am done, Jonah says. Harlan eases forward and puts his boot on the revolver. Deputy Brooks, the judge says, voice flat. You will sit. Bailiff, take his weapon and keep the aisle clear. Brooks sags onto the chair. The railroad agent dabs his brow. Mrs. Wynne, the judge says, thank you. You may sit. The county attorney rises. Your Honor, the state calls the station master. The station master steps to the rail. I am Henry Bell, he says. I saw the court pouch taken from Mesa Junction last night. I saw 2 men with badges who did not name a county watch the senders. Do you know the railroad agent? The attorney asks. I do. He has used my wire to speak to the line. He once told me to mark a water report light. I said the report would be filed in the open. Thank you. The attorney nods. The state calls Harlan Pike. Harlan fills the space. I stamped that survey tube when I was young, he says. The post that hit it came from the first church. I saw the deputy near the schoolyard with a crowbar 2 weeks back. Objection, the agent says. Guesswork. Overruled, the judge says. Harlan continues. Amos Wynne shot his horses with care. He did not go down clean. I can swear what I did not see on his horse, panic marks. Clara closes her eyes for a heartbeat. The attorney turns. Mr. Hart, did you pay the deputy from company funds? I paid for advice, Hart says. What advice bought a burial before daylight? The attorney asks. Hart rubs his mouth. I wanted the truth, Clara says. The judge looks from Hart to the deputy. This court will hear from Deputy Brooks. Brooks lifts his chin. I did take coin, he says. Not for murder. For keeping order. What order? The judge asks. Order that keeps the spur on schedule. Folks get rich when trains run. A widow can make trouble without meaning to. Law is not the same as schedule, the judge says. His hand rests on the old survey. This paper says the spring belongs to Mrs. Wynne. The margin note says public access by the school path. Hart shifts. The line can pay fare. Fare is not forced, the judge says. He taps the ledger copy. These entries show secret money. The attorney steadies. Your Honor, the state requests a writ to seize the original ledger held by the railroad agent and a warrant to detain Deputy Brooks for corruption pending full trial. We also request immediate affirmation of Mrs. Wynne's water title and a court order to protect her person. Granted, the judge says. Bailiff, take the deputy's badge. The room hushes as the bailiff unpins the tin star. It clicks on the table. Mr. Hart, the judge says, you will surrender your ledger now. Hart hesitates. Jonah only looks. Hart opens his folio and lays a worn book on the rail. The county attorney marks it and slides it to the clerk. Clara feels something loosen in her chest. Mrs. Wynne, the judge says, this court affirms your title to the spring and the rights that flow with it. You will have a written order by noon. Do you wish to speak before we break? Clara stands. Yes, Your Honor, I wish to say thank you. And I wish to say that the water at my school will be kept for all. No child will be turned away. Court will recess for 1 hour, the judge says. We reconvene to set bonds and hear further testimony. Let no one leave town without leave of court, benches scrape. People rise. The weight in the room has shifted. Jonah steps close to Clara. Breathe, he says. I can, she answers. You did well. You did not kill him. Said I would try not to. They move toward the aisle. Harlan claps Jonah's shoulder. Marta presses a lemon drop into Clara's palm. Outside, the flag lifts in a small wind. The town looks different when the law stands upright again. The bell over the courthouse door rings once. People file back in. The judge returns with papers and a face that says the day will end with order. Court is again in session, he says. We will finish what we began. Clara sits with Marta on one side and Harlan behind. Jonah stands in the aisle where he can see the hands and doors. The deputy stares at the floor. The railroad agent fusses with his tie like it could save him. The county attorney rises. Your Honor, the state calls Mrs. Wilkins. A thin woman steps forward, twisting a handkerchief. I clean at the jail, she says. I heard the deputy tell Mr. Hart the widow was stubborn. He said the spring could buy silence if her papers vanished. Why speak now? Asks the attorney. Because I watched a brand new show for a teacher who gives my niece her letters, she says. I will not keep that kind of quiet. The judge nods. Thank you. The attorney calls the hostler from Dry Lantern. He tells how the morality show is set. The deputy told me to keep water hot for the iron, he says. I argued. He said I liked my job. The judge turns to the deputy. Do you wish to answer? Brooks swallows. Without a badge, he looks small. I did wrong, he says. I thought the spur would raise the town. I took coins to make things easy. I did not strike Amos Wynn. I did not stop it either. Clara keeps her hands flat on her skirt. She does not gloat. Mr. Hart, the judge says, you kept 2 ledgers, one for the company, one for yourself. Hart's mouth pinches. The company expects results. The law expects light, the judge replies. This court orders your detention. The marshal will hold you for circuit court. 2 marshals step forward. Hart opens and closes his mouth and finds no words worth air. The judge looks over the room. This is about more than a spring, he says. It is about what sort of town you aim to be. Do you want wealth built in smoke and closed rooms or goodness that stands in the sun? Deputy Brooks will answer for corruption. Mr. Hart will answer for conspiracy. The Brannons will face civil action. The court also orders public access to the school path, as written in the original survey. A quiet rush moves along the benches. Mrs. Wynn, the judge says, you will receive a certified copy of your title, a protective order, and the court's thanks. If you seek restitution, file it and it will be heard. Clara stands. I will file for the school as well, she says. The bell needs a new rope. The stove needs repair. Children should drink clean water without fear. So ordered that funds seized from illegal payments be held toward those needs, the judge says. Marta grins. Harlan's eyes shine. The judge raps the gavel. We reconvene tomorrow on bonds. People rise. Careful now. The marshals lead the agent away. The deputy sits alone, learning the shape of solitude. Jonah waits by the door. When Clara reaches him, he tips his hat. It is done for now, he says. For now, she answers. Outside, the air tastes like rain, though the sky holds thin clouds. Mesa Street looks wider. Men who watched the branding kept their eyes low. Women meet Clara's gaze. The town feels hushed and awake. Harlan says, the school bell will ring clean again. Bring me the frame. I'll hang a new rope. Thank you, Clara says. I will bring the children to watch. Marta presses a lemon drop into Clara's palm. For your voice, she says. Jonah stands a little apart, angled toward the next road. Drifting taught him to move like water around rocks. It also taught him to leave before he can put his name on a door. Will you ride on? She asks. Soon, he says. There's a spare bed at the livery. I will be near. Stay at the schoolhouse instead, she says. The stove smokes. The door sticks. I would be glad of hands. He studies her face. You are safe under the court's order. Paper is strong, she says, but a guard beside a door is stronger. He almost argues and chooses not to. I will see you to the school, he says. We will check the pump in the path. After that, I'll think. They walk down the hill. People step aside and let them pass. The bell in Clara's mind rings once, a clear note. At the steps, Clara looks back at the courthouse. The sun throws a square of light across the stoop. She and Jonah walk through it without slowing, like 2 shadows learning the feel of day. The schoolhouse sits on a low rise above the creek. Sun lays quiet stripes on the windows. The bell frame leans, rope frayed to threads. A bucket waits by the pump. Clara unlocks the door. Dust lifts and settles. Desks sit in straight rows. The slate still holds the last sums a child wrote in chalk. She sets her packet on the teacher's table and rests her palm on the wood. It feels solid. It feels hers. Jonah walks the room once, learning corners and sounds. He checks the back latch, the loose pane, and the view to the path that will be opened by law. He kneels by the stove and tests the draft with a strip of paper. The smoke curls, then clears. "You can fix that?" Clara asks. "I can make it less stubborn," he says. "Stoves are like mules. Give them straight air and they pull. They work." He plans the door edge with a tool from Harlan. She oils the hinges. He sets a new bar across the back window. She chalks a note. "School opens Monday. Bring your slates." Marta arrives with nails and a pie. Jeb comes with a fresh bell rope. Harlan follows with a mallet and a look that says he never doubted this day. "Lift," he tells Jonah at the frame. They seat new pins deep into clean wood. The rope slides through and hangs true. Clara steps back, tears bright and easy. She takes the rope and gives one small pull. The note spreads across the yard, clear and right. "Water next," Jonah says. They walk to the pump. The handle squeals, then smooths. He works the bolts, sets new leather, and primes it with a dipper of creek water. She lines flat stones for safe footing so small boots will not slip. When he tests again, a bright stream leaps into the bucket. Children gather by the fence. Their mothers stand a pace behind. Men keep a respectful distance and pretend to study the sky. Clara turns to them all. "School opens," she calls. "Water is for everyone, no charge." "No gate," a murmur answers like wind and wheat. Jeb rings the bell again. The marshal rides through to post notices. The deputy under guard, the agent in a cell, bonds set for trial. He touches his hat to Clara and drinks from the dipper before moving on. Evening leans in. Clara sweeps sets of slates on desks. Jonah sits on the top step and shapes a peg for the latch with his knife. He watches the path as practice, but his shoulders have lost the tightness of men ready to leave. "You said you would think," Clara says from the doorway. "Have you thought?" "I have," he says. "A drifter's truth is simple. When trouble ends, the road calls. And," she asks. "Sometimes the road is a line around a place," he says. "A line a man walks because what is inside it matters." She steps down beside him. The day smells of iron cooled and flour baked and dust turned by feet that are not running. "I won't ask for what you do not freely give," she says. "I only say this, the waterline needs a guard. The children do too. So do I, though I can stand on my own now." He looks at her hand on the rail, at the faint rope burn, at the ink mark from her note to the judge. "You have stood all along," he says. "I only cleared the path." "Sometimes clearing is love," she says. He lets the words rest. He nods once. "I will stay," he says. "I will guard the waterline, the schoolhouse, and the path. I will do it without owing you. I will do it because I choose you and this." Clara's breath leaves and returns like a tide that found shore. She takes his hand. It is work rough and sure. The bell rope moves a little in the evening breeze. The bucket on the rail catches the last light. Neighbors drift away with quiet smiles. Harlan gathers tools. Marta leaves the pie on the sill with a note. "For after you sleep a little." Jeb runs ahead of his shadow, ringing an invisible bell. Night comes gently, not like the night that began this story. Jonah checks the doors and sets the peg he carved. He pulls a bedroll to the back corner by the stove. "Guard's corner," he says. "Teacher's table," she answers. "Two anchors for one small room. They do not kiss. They do not need to. The promise is not a firework. It is a lamp trimmed. It is a clear path and a bucket full of sweet water. Guarding her has become staying. Staying has become loving. Love chosen, not owed. Now, if this frontier love gave you a breath of hope, tap like so more folks find it. Subscribe for more clean Western romances and ring the bell so you never miss the next ride. Tell me in the comments which moment hit you hardest. The river rescue, the flower storm, or the courtroom stand. Your one comment keeps the channel alive.